Hey guys, MJ here. How's it going? All right, we're at the Legend Hotel here in Kaohsiung, and I'm on the second floor lounge area. I can see I've got some. Hang on. I've got some. I got a camera pro and ISO. Oh shoot! I can't turn that off. Can't seem to, there you go. For some reason, oh boy, this is going to be annoying. Maybe I can lock on the back. If I do on me, how's that? I don't know. See, and sorry about that. I've got exposure issues, but anyway, just want to say hi to everyone on Facebook and also on YouTube. We're in the Legend Hotel. This is a pretty cool place. It's actually a 3-star hotel, but I like it. It's got a lot of cool amenities, and we're down here for a week because Phoenix, my daughter, has a summer camp thing going on, and I'm down here having something to drink. Fist bump to you. Always a pleasure to see you, Matthew. You know, it shows nobody on YouTube. There's got to be somebody watching. Because you're watching, but I'll show you this place in a little bit. All this stuff behind me is fake. All these pictures, the books and stuff. This is pretty cool. In front of me is like a seascape and whales and whatnot. This place, I'll be showing it throughout the live stream. Of course, you saw the thumbnail. This place has like got the wildest decor. You know, like for example, we checked into our room. The room is painted like this. You know, it's all like handbags and dresses and stuff. This is kind of like a Cinderella room. It's a room kind of like for little girls. And there's even like a bed that they said was like Cinderella. See, but it's not really a pumpkin. But you see, it's got like orange slices for wheels, and that's Phoenix. And she's 9, and she's actually pretty tall. She's 141 or something. No, she's almost 150 centimeters tall, almost 1.5 meters. She's pretty tall, and she can fit in that, and it's pretty cool. And then I made a little panorama of the bedroom, and so if you look at this photo off to the far right, that's where that little bed would be, and then there's kind of a pink little settee in the middle, and then there's 2 full-size beds, and you can see the painting on it. It's really cool. I like it a lot. And so then I'll show you what the halls look like. We're on the 3rd floor, and I'm going to do some 360s, but this is a shot of the hall, and it's got like, you know, planets and stuff down the bottom, and all kinds of real creative colors. I mean, they've got pictures of things that look real. Like I was joking with Phoenix because there's like a sofa that's painted on the side of the wall. And it looks like you can sit on it. And so from the same exact direction, I mean, the same exact space, turn around facing the other way. That's what the other half of it looks like. So it is really something. I really enjoyed being in this place and hanging out. So I'm on the second floor lounge. This is like a free lounge. There's some ice in the ice box. There's a big screen TV here if you want to watch. And there's let me do this on my shirt. And there's water machine, coffee. There's some bunch of other stuff. Of course, I'm not going to do anything with it, but even in the room, like like the soft drinks are free. They got like bowls of palmian, what do you say, like instant noodles, that kind of stuff. So, and of course it's Taiwan, and so we can do anything we want. So I'm down here drinking. This is Scottish Leader I bought at the convenience store, and some Cheers soda water, and I got some ice out of the ice box. And I'm sitting here by myself having a good old time just drinking. Now, if you guys remember, a couple of months ago, actually it was back in October, I think, it's quite a while ago. Hey, Ken Rod, fist bump, good to see you. We were staying in a hotel, and it was overlooking the canal. And we saw the Coast Guard ship and the bridge and all that stuff. This is the same block. It's just away from the canal, like 2 more blocks. So that Coast Guard ship is down there, and all that stuff is down there. The Love River is down that way. I got to tell you, I was going to walk out tonight and stream all that stuff, but I'm going to be here for a week. I was like, I don't have to do that tonight. I'm pretty tired. I had a long drive yesterday, and I didn't sleep that well last night, and I was up today. But they have the light rail system, and I'm going to show you guys that because I took some pictures of that. I also have a Hago tour planned on Wednesday. I'm going to the Buddhist monastery where they have the largest sitting Buddha in Taiwan. You guys probably remember that. I did that on Periscope. That's kind of a pivotal Periscope broadcast for me when I did that, because that was when I think I had just gotten, I think I just crossed 1,000 followers. Yeah, pretty sure I just crossed 1,000 followers. So anyway, that's cool. That was fun. So my wife and I were in, I want to show you some stuff. My wife and I were in Beipu, which is a little town. And Phoenix was there the other day and had some activity with her little her class, and one of the what am I trying to say? It's like a summer camp. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I'm just tongue-tied. And so while we were there, my wife and I decided to walk around a little bit and see some things that were going on and stuff. And some pretty funny things happened, but I want to show you a little bit about what it's like there. But before I do that, I want to talk about one other thing real quick. I found this stuff because you guys know I've been talking about my hair. I found a really nice barber, and he's been cutting it a little bit longer and stuff. But the fact of the matter is that being 66, I'm closer to 70 than I am the other way around. And it's just, a lot thinner on top than it used to be. Now, I've seen some guys, with really high hair, but you can see all the way through it because it's only like, 10 strands or something. I just didn't want to be quite that bad. But what I'm trying to do is trying to revitalize it a little bit, right? So, yeah, the background library scene is pretty cool, Ken. And it's all fake, it's all paint. I'll take you around and show you in a few minutes. But we have this stuff in Taiwan. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I'll take a picture of this. This is a German company, and they've got a caffeine shampoo and a caffeine liquid. So you put the shampoo on and you leave it for 2 minutes. And I didn't know this, but caffeine apparently keeps the hair follicles from going to sleep, which makes sense because caffeine keeps me from going to sleep. And then the caffeine, you got to be careful because it's the caffeine liquid has the top screws off, and there's a conical shaped applicator, and you just basically point it wherever you need it. So basically the top of my head, it kind of runs down. You got to be careful. But I got to tell you, it has this very cooling, tingling effect and a revitalizing kind of feeling. I don't know if it's actually doing anything or not, but it's pretty cool. It's not that expensive. Each one of those bottles is like $10. So I'm going to try that. I've been trying it for a couple of days. Supposedly what it does is it strengthens the hair. It keeps it from falling out. So hey, that's the secret. Because my brother-in-law used to say, he's from North Carolina, and hair gets, changes colors. He used to say it can turn whatever color I want, as long as it don't turn loose, which I thought was really, really funny. So anyway, we're in Beipu, and you probably saw this on Facebook. So something, Ken. Hey, listen, man. I had that exact same thought, because I thought at the same time maybe it'll turn it brown again. I was thinking about it. I go, why don't I just brew like this pot of the most outrageously dark, strong caffeine brew that I can brew, and just pour it on my head and massage it in and see what happens. And if my hair is brown, hey, I think that probably would be like the cheapest hair dye possible. It might look good and it might look bad, but the thing is, it probably would wash out anyway, so I don't think it matters, But yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. So I got a dragon fruit milk at this place. And I don't know if you guys have tried dragon fruit, but it's a very hard fruit to try to describe. It's just, I don't know. But the skin is kind of thick, and the skin forms pieces, that don't quite get blended. But anyway, so we were at the place in Beipu, and got some of the local food and ran around. But there was one thing that happened that was actually pretty funny, and I want to play this for you because this happens a lot. I was walking around, and some ladies were there in the middle of the street, and they were like, just taking photographs and stuff, and they were photographing each other across, and I was going to walk through, and I usually say, excuse me, and many people in Asia don't say things like that. They don't say excuse me, they just walk through, right? So I said, excuse me. That's all I said, just one thing in Chinese, and the lady turned around and she said, oh, wow, you speak Chinese so well. And so I decided I had a little fun. I stopped. I got my 360 camera going. So I stopped and I said, I didn't say much. All I said was, excuse me. And I said it wasn't anything special. And then she said, yeah, you said, excuse me. But then I said it in Taiwanese. And I turned around and walked away before they could really respond to that. So I'm hearing some noise. I wonder if there's some other people over there, whatever that is. So I want to play you this video because it's actually pretty funny. And so I think, all right, anyways, it's in 360, but it's reframed. So this is it. This is the video I want to play for you. But it's in actually, 9:16 vertical mode, but here it is. Yes, I'm just making coffee over there. I can hear it. Now we're going through it. This is just a 360 camera on the selfie stick. And so I reframe it so you can see me walking through. And that's when she said, oh, you speak Chinese so well. That's when I said paise, which is Taiwanese for excuse me. That's kind of unusual for somebody who doesn't look like a local person to say. Not many people who don't grow up there would actually say that, so that's why I did that. And this is what these little alleyways really look like. They're really just like this, very thin, very skinny. And there's some colorful, interesting places here in Taiwan. Really quite amazing. And I come to the end of the street and turn around. And that's that. So I know you guys like food. So in the evening, we went to this restaurant called 11th Street in Jubei, and but before you do that, I'm going to show you this other stuff that we got. Let me see. This is wonton soup that I got in Beipu, and these are handmade, and I'll tell you, they're just wonderful. It looks every bit as good. It was every bit as good as that looks in that photo. It's pretty amazing. And then this is something. This is a dish that my wife got. It's a noodle dish with some vegetables, and she said it was really, really good, but I didn't try this one. And then this is pickled vegetables. This is like Taiwanese style kimchi, because these kind of pickled vegetables are really big here in Taiwan, and even the Korean style is big here. But these Taiwan style type kimchi is very, very popular in a lot of these small hometown restaurants. And this is a mixed plate of some boiled stuff. Of course, there's a garnish of chopped onions in the middle, but started down in the bottom, that sliced pig ear, and then going around clockwise, something I'm not even sure. I know that there's, I think it might be tripe on the left, and then on the top is intestine, and the far right is, I think, is dry tofu. I forget, but all of these things are prepared in like a salt and soy sauce preparation when they're boiled, and they're just really, really amazing. And so in the evening, we went to 11th Street, and this is a bowl that I got. This is called, I'll tell you what, Ken, you'd love it. It's hard to take a picture that looks, it does it justice, you know what I mean? This is what we call Nyoro Tangjiao, and what this is tang means beef, and tang means soup. So this is beef soup, but the jiao is the dumplings that come from the word from the word sui jiao. What this is you can see these are slices of beef in the top of this. It's a red broth. It's spicy, but not too spicy. It's very savory and rich. That's a type of boiled lettuce. Now, I talked about this on my show before. When I first came to Taiwan, I couldn't stand boiled lettuce. Who boils lettuce? It's something you eat in a salad. But this is a type of boiled lettuce, and it's fantastic in this soup. And those are homemade pork and cabbage dumplings. And if you look in the upper far right corner, you can just barely see a little bowl with orange, because MJ loves hot sauce. And I've never really, realistically, found a hot sauce that was too hot. I mean, some of them were a little hotter than I prefer, but the hotter the better. And this was pretty good, man. I gotta tell you, it was hot oil, and it was also some soybean base. I put two types that were together. So, hey Frank, how's it going? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Yeah, and well, because we have it here too. Yeah, we have a heat wave here, and it's been very, very hot. Of course, I'm inside. I'm going to be here for a week. Over the next couple of nights, I think Wednesday I've got a big show on Hago during the day, but I'm going to have some time during the day. But I want to go down here to the canal, and then over there to the Love River, and maybe some other places. I might go to the Cowboy Bar, and we've got a fantastic restaurant, an Argentinian restaurant here called Cow on Fire. All you can eat for like $30. They just keep bringing the barbecue on wheels, and you just keep, so there's a lot of things going on, but it has been pretty hot. I've been drinking a lot more water than lately, and you gotta wear a hat when you go out. Fortunately, today it was a little on the cooler side, so I stayed in most of the day. Went out in the evening, and so now we're just in this hotel. And for those of you who just joined, I'll just show you real quick. When we arrived, this is what our room looked like. And it's got like a little kind of a princess bed that's sort of like a princess carriage. And it says Legend, that's the name of this hotel. And so my daughter's in that. And it was fun. And in the hallway, you know, where our room is, one, you know, looking down the hallway looks like this in one direction. And you see planets and stuff. That's a regular carpet. I mean, it must be a commercial carpet. It's a step and repeat pattern. I don't know if they had this custom made, but the whole floor is like that. And then turning around, looking the other way, that's what that looks like. That's just phenomenal. Now the problem is, Periscope. Prism doesn't show. It doesn't deal with 3D photos or 360 photos, so I can't really show you the 360 photos that I took when I was in Beipu. I just took a couple of photos, and I took a photo of the kids because, you know, like I said, it was like a little summer camp where Phoenix was going around for 5 different days. They went to different places and studied the artistic things that were there, and they drew them. It's pretty amazing. And so they were in Beipu in the town, and my wife and I dropped her off with the class, and they went inside an art center, and then they were walking around town later. And you know, it's funny when your kids run into you as parents, and they're with their other kids, you know, in the class, and you never know if they're going to act like they don't know you or not, or something like. So Phoenix walks right over to me, and she's talking to me, and like uncomfortably close for someone who wouldn't know that I was her dad. And the teacher had this alarmed look on her face, and I said to her in Chinese, "Oh, this is my daughter." And she was like, "Oh, I just spilled my drink." She's like, "Oh, that's so. Oh, okay." So I was so scared that, you know, because Phoenix was so close to me and stuff. So at any rate, that was cool. And then they had a pump there. I think. Hang on a second. What it is a lot of these older places. Let me see if I can show you this. Okay. Many of these older streets have these pumps here. Ken, take care. Thanks so much for joining. They have these water pumps that represent like the old days. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. You can't really see it because the resolution. Nah. It's zoomed in. It's zoomed in too far. I just spilled my drink. I can't believe I just did that. Made a mess. That's all right. I got a whole thing of tissues here. I'll just clean this up. No big deal. I just worry about spilling the booze. But when you can't see the kids in the middle or around this water pump, and there's a lot of those in Taiwan. Some of these older, like old streets areas or historic places will have like the town water pump where people used to go, the town square, and, you know, pump water. And that's how you pump water, and you put it in like a balance beam and buckets, and you walk back to the house, and that's what you did. Even in modern times, I mean, we saw that in Lao, in the village Bana. My wife and I visited there. We stayed there for a couple days, and every morning at like 5 a.m., you know, the eldest daughter in the house, it was her job to fill the water up, the water jugs in the house, and she would go down there and get the balance beam and come back home with 2 big jars and dump them in, you know, and then go back and get more. Other times, like in Thailand, we were in a small village, and there's no electricity or nothing, and water pump, you know, for that house. And I say took a shower. I went out at night. It was pitch black, no lights, can't see nothing. Just undress, hang your clothes on the tree, get the pump, little bucket, pour it on you, soap up, bucket, rinse off, and grab your clean clothes off the tree. It's pretty cool. And so there was one of those. I've got a better picture of it, but there's one of those pumps that represents kind of the older way of life. You know, that's really what's going on. And so, yeah. Then, in addition to that, though, they have wells in some places. In near Tony's old factory, my friend Tony, they have a well, and it's actually, it's just a representation of it, but it is a hole with a stone wall. It's a stone wall round well head, and they didn't cover it up too well. I mean, I know I'm using the term well, but very effectively, and you can kind of see down in it. I was thinking, boy, if a kid crawled up in there and fell, because there's no way to get out. Now, what I'm going to do is, I hear some people there, but I don't know what they're doing. I'm going to go over and look for some more ice. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to play our bumpers. Now, the other day, somebody told me that they couldn't hear the audio on the bumpers, and I don't know why. Let me take a look and see what's going on. If I load this up, it should have the first one there, and nope, the volume is, no, wait a minute, there you go, hang on. Yeah, now we should have it. Okay, we're going to play our 4 bumpers, and we'll be right back after this. Probably heard me getting the ice because the wireless mic. Okay, all right. And that, of course, is the old name of my channel. It's been since changed. Okay, so tell me, you guys, did you hear the audio from the bumpers? It's really important. No sound. Nothing? None of them. Gert, how you doing? Guys need to follow my man here, because he does some great whiskey reviews, and I'm afraid to admit it, Gert, but I'm drinking some cheap blended, Scottish leader, because it's $2.50, so it's about $7. What's this? 200 centiliters. So there you go. Couldn't hear the video clips. I'm gonna have to check that out, because. All right. Let's do one more test. Let me do a clip by itself. I'm going to do a clip by itself and see if you hear the audio on this.
Hi, this is Dave in Osaka, live from Greenland, and you're watching Taiwan
This
Live
shows
TV
the audio is playing
with MJ Klein
on my screen. Yep. Okay, so that was it by itself. You heard that? Okay, good. Thank you. Very helpful. That means there's a problem with the playlist. Ah, good. See, playlists are a new feature on Prism Live Studio, so that's probably it. All right, look, let me show you around the room. I'll take a quick walk around the room. And just note that everything in here is completely free. Now, this is like a big long kind of like a bed. You can just lounge here. There's a window here. And seriously, if you wanted to just come up here in the afternoon and just snooze, you know, there's an outlet over there. If you want to just snooze, there's a big platform here, see? And it's elevated. I'm going to put my foot up here and you'll see what I mean, see? It's like this is elevated above the floor. And in Taiwan, nobody will bother you, you know, doing anything. Some more of these kind of interesting little, I mean, look at this. It's like a kind of a sofa. And you see that table here with this chair and some other cool stuff, you know. Now, this is where I'm sitting. I'll turn around. This is like a big conference table. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of outlets. There's a phone on the end. It's kind of like a mini conference table. Oh yeah, oh I know. These, yeah, and Taiwan floors they're known for this. Usually you have to take your shoes off, but not in here. This has been, this is probably tile. All right, so here's your little kitchen area, and bowls, dishes, chopsticks, and stuff are all sanitized. This is a hot water machine because it's all water has to be boiled in Taiwan. And then there's a coffee machine over here, and you know, there's a toaster oven and a microwave. And so anything you want, you can just grab it, no problem. And then behind me is the ice box. You guys have seen what an ice box looks like. It's a little thing for kids to play on here, like a little unicorn. This is funny. But I mean, this place is just off the wall, you know. And there's like this crazy chandelier. Across the street, there's all these bars here, like Ooh La La. And then next to it is like the Mariners Lounge. See, this place is near the port. So for years and years and years, yeah, that's exactly right. For years and years and years, it was all about sailors and stuff. Here's another one of these little places to lounge and, you know, outlet. There's 2 public computers here. I should probably put Taiwan Live TV on, you know, or sorry, my new channel, The Real Taiwan. I should probably put that on and have it playing while I'm talking. And you know, here's the restroom. And everything in Taiwan is upscale. I mean, look at this. This is just, I mean, some kind of slate, you know, don't know what it is. And more of this like slate flooring, stainless steel, everything's just, it's really cool. I don't know what that is, but it's a little display they got with, it looks like kids' names on it and stuff, so. And kids like stamps. So they have all kinds of stamps over here. I just noticed this. I have no idea what they are, but okay, like just stuff like this. And they got stamp ink pads, you can, you know, and then just kind of stuff like this that they did, I guess, for Mother's Day and other stuff. But so you just get some of the Legend Hotel. See, that's what they call them. They call them the Hotel Memorial Seal. Those kinds of things in Taiwan, those stamps are really popular. And they have them for the high-speed rail and many of the bigger, more famous businesses and buildings in the city. So look at this, man. If I go out into the hallway, I don't have my mask on. If I go out into the hallway, see, this is this carpet. Now this hallway is blue, but the hallway that I'm on is different. Now, okay, I'm just gonna show you real quick. I got my mask off. I need my mask on, but I don't have it on. Let's go around the corner, show you. Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's just crazy. All right, so I'm gonna go back in the room. Okay. All right. That's just crazy. So we're gonna go back over here and have a seat. Oh yeah, and I think I should. This is the big screen TV. So it's cool because right across from the big screen TV, you know, you've got these things here, so you could literally just like sit down right here, boom. Take care, girl. Thanks so much. Appreciate you joining, man. And you guys follow the Whiskey Lover Society if you like whiskey reviews, and he calls them the no BS whiskey reviews. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I watch a lot of them, and they're amazing. I'm really glad to see that you're finally getting, you know, some serious follower numbers, and people are noticing you and following you, and you're getting the numbers because you're doing everybody a service. Take care. Fist bump. All right. Thanks for joining. I'm going to plug my charger back in on the phone. So I just wanted to come on and yak a little bit. I was really considering going outside tonight and walking up and down, but I'm just, hate to say this, I'm just too tired. You guys know I had COVID, right? And when I was recovering from COVID, I was getting between 10 and 15 hours of sleep every night. It was amazing. It was great. I couldn't believe it. But now I'm back to my usual self, being stupid, not getting enough sleep. And so in the last 7 days, I have one night, which I got 8 hours sleep. And the problem is it wasn't in one go. So that's the problem. I've actually taken 2 naps today. So I fully intend to get plenty of sleep tonight. A little whiskey doesn't hurt. Take it easy tomorrow, see what's going on. And then during the week, I want to do a little more live streaming because I'm going to be down here. And then Wednesday during the day, I got the Hago tour at 11 o'clock. If you guys haven't been on Hago, you want to see what's going on, go to the realtaiwan.tv. I'm going to show you the largest sitting Buddha statue. This is part of my Giant Statues of Taiwan series. This is the largest sitting Buddha in Taiwan. I've been there before in 2016, and it's a causeway lined with giant pagodas that just go off into the distance, and sitting at the back is a Buddha sitting cross-legged, and it's just like, I think it's just humongous, and it's really something. I'm going to show that on Hago. There's actually a standing Buddha around the corner. It's a little bit too far to walk for a live stream. It's not that it's too far to walk. It's just that you're walking, okay? So this is the live stream is you going like this for 15 minutes while you go from one side to the other. So, but as usual, I'm going to have my trusty 360 with me, and I'm going to get some. Oh, you know what? I was hoping I could get the drone for this this week. Nope. I actually went to buy the drone that I want to get, and Taiwan does not have stock on them. There's actually another place though. There's another place here in Kaohsiung. I might go there tomorrow and just see, because not every place is treated equally, and Kaohsiung is a big, big place. Kaohsiung has, you know, it's a big prestigious place, and so it's possible that they may have stock on the drone that I want. Problem is setting it up, configuring it, you know, getting used to flying it, and you know, and firmware updates and stuff. It's like it ain't gonna happen by Wednesday anyway. But anyway, just something to think about. All right, so that's the plan. Maybe tomorrow night. Oh, the other thing too. There is a night market, and we have the light rail. In Chinese, it's called the Qingwei. Let me explain something. Everybody knows pretty much, I think, that Taiwan used to be part of Japan, which is crazy because one of the talking points of the Chinese Communist Party is that Taiwan is part of China. It's an unalienable part of China, and has always been a part of China. Yet, everybody knows from history that from 1895 to 1945, a period of 50 years, Taiwan was fully part of Japan. It was a prefecture, which is a way of saying a province. A prefecture, and a lot of places have names. It's easy to find the Japanese names of all these places, and I have maps too that show that. So there's a lot of Japanese influence here, especially here in Kaohsiung, because it's a big port, and it was a port in 1895. It was a port up into World War II. There's a World War II era biplane right over here in the art section. It's amazing. I got pictures of it, and it says "Made in Kaohsiung" in English. It's got a Japanese flag on it. It was made. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it, man. Thanks. I'm trying to take care of my hair a little more, putting some junk on it and stuff. Thanks. And it has a Japanese flag on it. It was used in World War II on the Japanese side. So they have these sugar warehouses down there. So, hey Matthew, thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you sticking around, man. And I know you almost always stick around to the end. But you got to go, and I really appreciate it. Take care. So they have these sugar warehouses down here. And the Japanese built a light railway system in order to bring sugar shipments down into the warehouse, stock them, and then get them back out on a light rail. They didn't need a humongous rail system. And just recently I was somewhere in Kaohsiung where right beside these Qingwei tracks were two Japanese era coal steam locomotives, and I just almost dropped my phone. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's amazing history just sitting around here. But anyway, there's a place that you go down here and you can see where all the railroad tracks converge in this big group, kind of fanned out, and then they have stops. So, hey, bud, fist bump to you. Yeah, I heard it was really hot. What would it be? It was, I read like in Phoenix, Arizona. I think I did the conversion. See, I have to use metric. I've forgotten Fahrenheit, but it was like 42. It was ridiculous. What would that be, like 110 or something? And I know all the way, I know Phoenix is a long ways away, but if you look at it geographically, Phoenix to Texas, there's kind of like that whole bottom lower portion of the states. And even my friend Frank, who's up in New England, said they're having a heat wave. We had a heat wave here too. It was bad. Fortunately, it's starting to break, but oh well. So they had stops at the end of all those tracks, and the stops are still there. But of course, the rails and the ties, the actual road itself, the rail roadway, of course, it was all disintegrated, and they tore it up. But here's the cool thing. The engineers who built the original line graded it. I mean, they went to great lengths to level it, and then where it turns, it has the correct amount. You need a slight bank, so you can get some speed. So, wow. Got to drink a lot of water, man. Boy, oh boy, and electrolytes too. That's the hard part, because the thing is you sweat the salts out, but that's electrolytes. And you replace them just with water, it ends up getting imbalanced. It's a big problem. Anyway, so what the Kaohsiung government has done is they obviously studied historical maps, and in light of the locations of those railroad grades, and of course what infrastructure has been built since then. And it turns out that it made perfect sense to put a light rail tram system along that grade, and boy, it's beautiful. I want to move down here now. I love it here now. It's amazing. So I use my we have different little payment cards, like an Easy card or a Yo-Yo card. And I walked 2 blocks to the Pier 2 Qingwei stop. They have a tram every 12 minutes. I took my card, beep, 30 NT, that's $1. And I rode it like 7 or 8 kilometers and got off and walked over to see Ma. It's great. We parked my car yesterday. I haven't used it. I'm not going to use it probably till I leave. It's amazing. This is what I'm getting to, is that there is a night market. If you go south on the Qingwei Pass, the Dream Mall kind of goes around a little bit, and it hooks around. If you're looking at the map, it goes south and then it hooks around, of course, opposite, hooks around, and it heads towards the east a little bit, and there's a permanent night market there that I want to show you guys. You know something? I have never heard any restrictions whatsoever on metal detecting. And boy, you brought up something, because I used to metal detect in New England. I didn't have a really good detector. I bought this detector from Radio Shack, because that's that's the electronic store they have in the States. Because if you don't know if you want to get into a hobby, right? You're just checking it out. You don't want to like drop a whole bunch of money on, So later on, I was looking at a Mine Lab Sovereign and some of those. But here's the cool thing. In Taiwan, like, this is crazy. If you're into astronomy, you can go to a store and you can buy a Celestron, Schmidt Cassegrainian GPS-aligned equatorial mount, computerized $12,000 telescope, because they got them. I went into the store, and I was looking at their catalog, and they have these multi-frequency metal detectors from Germany. There's $7,000–8,000 US, man. And some of them employ similar frequencies to ground penetrating radar. It's like crazy. And I'm guessing, see, here's the thing. I brought my gold pans to Taiwan. I never used them. But all the rivers have gold in them. And there's just, I got too much to do. I know, I would love to. I'm looking at getting the drone and doing more photography, but I would love to have a high-end metal detector, because you could find so much. It ain't about finding the money, it's about artifacts. Because I was on Lynn Beach with my metal detector, and somebody asked me, what's the most, because everyone wants to know, what's the most valuable thing that you ever found? Found a set of car keys. Pretty valuable. Yeah, I know. I don't even know if Radio Shack still exists, but it's on Lynn Beach. Found a set of car keys on Lynn Beach. I'll tell you what I used to find, which is really cool. I was never in it to dig up. Everybody wants to find a cache, They want to find some colonial cache of some gold that a Revolutionary War era person buried because they thought the redcoats were coming. And I found colonial nails. And it was funny, because I had gone to one of those kind of I forget what you would call it. This is some kind of festival on the weekend where they have, you know, medieval crafts. And I saw a blacksmith making those nails, and it showed the form and everything, that, you know, how he hammered out the strips and everything, and then they put the head on it and stuff by striking it. And I found a bunch of those colonial nails, but they were real ones. I mean, they were actually made a long time ago, and I got more enjoyment. I found like about 50 of them, and I started giving them out as gifts. And people were like, "What is this thing?" I said, "It's an actual colonial nail I found in the ground." They're like, "Really?" But simple little things like that. So I know what you're saying, C. But here the thing is, excuse me, Taiwan lags a lot of other places around the world when it comes to regulation, simply because many times they don't see the need for it. Like, for example, it's only been recently that you've had to register drones that were above a certain weight. It used to be buy and fly. You could buy, you know, the biggest DJI drone. It looked like a crab, you know, 8 props on the thing is this big, and fly it anywhere you wanted. For years, you could do that. I remember one time I was at a night market about 8 years ago, and somebody flew a drone over the night market that was so big, I thought it was a UFO. I mean, I took pictures of this thing. I said, "What the heck is it?" And then I got home and I looked at it and said, "Oh, it's a drone," but it was like monsters, right? So like the new DJI Mini, you know, the Mini 3 Pro, it's 249 grams, no registration, nothing. You have to follow the restrictions. We have 120 meter height and a 900 meter distance limitations, and you have to be 30 meters away from like the roads and stuff. But yeah, because it's so light, you know, you can fly it over things that you couldn't fly over, you know, with a heavier drone. But even heavier drone registration is real simple, easy. Dungeon Rock, yeah. Frank, I don't think I ever told you this, but, you know, I had a lot of time on my hands, not having a job. And I bought a book on the history of Lynn Woods, and I went to the library, and I looked at every single piece of writing that I could find about the Marble Boys and the whole Dungeon Rock treasure and that whole thing. Now, I had the unique advantage in that in the radio business, I work with mapping and GIS. I'm a map expert. I can look at maps and tell you things about maps that you probably don't know. But what I'm saying is, I pulled maps and I studied a lot. I studied the whole Saugus River, you know, area, and because the legend is what Frank's talking about, Dungeon Rock. There's a legend in Lynn Woods that pirates buried treasure in Dungeon Rock. They came up the Saugus River and they were going to get caught, so they shipped this treasure on shore and buried it and split. And then, of course, you know, they got knifed or shot or whatever, and then nobody knows, okay? And I actually thought at one time, based on satellite maps of, you know, at that time, the present time, and early maps, that I had figured out where they would have anchored the ship and offloaded the cargo, you know, and actually carried it into the woods. And I always thought that they were looking in the wrong place. But I left Lynn and I never explored it. But I never thought it was in that rock. I thought, based on my research, that there are two rocks, and they got the names mixed up, and it's actually in another place. But those guys, the Marble brothers, they basically spent their whole life, their whole fortune blasting, and they didn't find anything. And you know, C Squared asked interesting things about metal detectors. You know, the technology we have today. I read a story about a guy that took like a Garrett gold stinger, and he went into an old gold mine that had been panned out. You know, these gold mines, right? They didn't have modern technology. They would dig, and then they dug it out, and they would go, well, we got all the gold out of it that we can get out of it. And because they would go bang, and they would chip some out. They go, see, there's nothing there, right? Well, this guy took like this metal detector and went along the wall, and within like an hour, he found a brand new vein that's below the surface of the rock that you can't see with your eyes, and you never otherwise would know was there unless you took a pick or something and knocked it in that particular spot. But you've got like this it's just overwhelming, and it's hit or miss. And so he just, within a couple of days, you know, paid for his metal detector and a whole bunch more, just chipping stuff out of there. So ground penetrating radar. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like, you guys have seen the original Jurassic Park movie, right? Hey, Rob, fist bump. Well, listen, man, there's no attendance, so, you know, you're not tardy. But thanks. You know Jurassic Park, right? Where they blast the charges and it forms shock waves in the ground, and then the seismographs read it, you know, the reflections and stuff. All that's real. When I was in Thailand, I actually saw the exact same thing where they had those holes where they detonated those specific types of charges, you know, because there's dinosaur bones there, and they're doing. And it's funny, I was there, I said, "Wow, that's exactly what they did in the original Jurassic Park movie." But there's all kinds of ways to do that nowadays, and it's not even invasive. You don't even need to use explosives. You can just use extremely low frequency energy, you know, basically sound waves. Subsonics. So, but getting back to the whole thing, I've never heard anyone ever talk about metal detecting here or any restrictions on it. I mean, this place is rugged. I was a four-wheel drive enthusiast. I had a Jeep. They have hardcore four-wheeling here in the mountains. These guys got, you know, ARB pneumatic lockers, you know, they got locking differentials, snorkels, you know, they got spring over conversions. Their Jeeps are, you know, this high, much higher than they should be. All kinds of crazy stuff. Winches on the front, winches on the back. And I mean, this is the kind of, these guys are so hardcore that, you know, they don't feel like they had a good time unless they, you know, broke an axle or like, you know, the transfer case blew up or something like that. So these mountains have all kinds of stuff up there and minerals, and Taiwan is well known as a geologist's dream. I've got rocks in my house that I went to East Taiwan and just bought in a store that are just unbelievably stratified and beautiful, and crystals and geodes. They're all so common here. You can buy these geodes, like huge things, you know, and they always paint the back of them black so they look like they're, you know, non-reflective, and then the front is just fantastic. And then they cut a wood base to match it, and you know, you can. These things are, you know, in the hundreds of dollars rather than the thousands, which they would be in other countries. And so there's so many things. If you had the time to do a little gem hunting, you do a little sluicing, and there's nobody that would bother you. I just think, though, that maybe if you found something of historical value because of like well, there are rumors that, and I don't have any personal information on this, but there are rumors of some crashed, like Mitsubishi Zeros, you know, the Japanese aircraft in the mountains. And my friend Tony tells me a story that his father was in Sinchu at the beach, and there was a dogfight between two warplanes. One of them was U.S. and the other, he doesn't know what the model was, but one of them was Japanese, and the Japanese plane got shot down, and it crashed right off the beach. It's still there. It's probably down, 30 meters below the surface. But again, if you had the money and you could do like a slow fly with a helicopter and some serious ground penetrating radar, there's all kinds of stuff you can find. And even up in the mountains, like all the wind generating machines that we have here in Taiwan. Taiwan has some tremendous offshore wind farms. And there's some sections of the coast where there might be 50 or it might be 100 of these things. But they've been around here for a long time. There's up in the mountains where Tony's factory was, there's remnants of these giant wind machines that are 40 years old. And you'll be driving up the road and look off to the side and there's a piece of like a 40-foot long prop laying on the, in the jungle. It's like all kinds of stuff, So I don't have specific knowledge of any of that. But I did hear some people talking about the possibility that there were some Japanese warplanes that just haven't been found, stuff like that. So that would be pretty cool to find those things. And then, of course, what you want to do is, return the personal effects to the family if you can. And, but yeah, that'd be interesting. Now you got me thinking. Yeah, I got to look at a metal detector now. Like I needed yet another hobby. I lent my gold pans to somebody, I just never got them back because I wasn't using them. But when I brought them to Taiwan, people were laughing at me. They go, gold, well, you can't find gold. And I had a vial with a gold rock that I found in New Hampshire, because New Hampshire is gold too. The United States Gold Rush, a lot of people don't know this, the United States Gold Rush was started in New Hampshire. A kid found a nugget. He said, Daddy, what's this? And Dad looked at it, and it was a giant, like football-sized piece of gold. And it was amazing. So that's what started it. And eventually that went to California. But, New Hampshire, the Granite State, a lot of the streams have gold. And you just have to know how to read them. It depends, like they take a turn, and when they take a turn, the heavier sediments tend to go to the outside and fall. It's all about speed, because these particles are suspended, but as soon as the river slows down, then they fall. It's just like the pan, right? As all the light stuff comes off, but the heavy stuff stays in the bottom. And there's a couple rivers in Taiwan near my house, and every time I drive by them, seriously, I talk to my daughter, my wife, I go, see that curve? Yeah, they got a curve and all those boulders there. So I bet there's gold in there. And because there were gold mines and copper mines in Taiwan. And they were closed after the Japanese era. But again, you could probably go in there with some modern metal detectors meant for detecting gold and just go along the walls and along, the bottom and the top and find something that's 1 or 2 centimeters behind where they have already excavated, but you can't tell until you pass over it. And they didn't have that technology back then. So, but that would be cool. I would like to find that. And the other thing too is I think you probably would find some Japanese era coinage too, which I think would be really cool. I could add that to my collection because my father collected during World War II. I never knew this. My father collected money, and my brother, when he visited Taiwan in 2011, gave me the collection. It contains Japanese military currency, Philippine military currency, And in my possession, this is really freaky. I don't know if they're museum grade, but I used to collect coins when I was a kid. And these are pristine banknotes. The Republic of China, which is what they call Taiwan now. The Republic of China banknotes issued in Shanghai, back when China was pre-communist. And there's like 20 of those. I don't know how much they're worth, but I probably should give at least a couple to the museum here. But my father has World War II era currency that he must have traveled a lot, because he's got a lot of European currency from that era. So it'd be nice to maybe find some Japanese era coins in the ground, add it to the collection. You know, that just reminded me, because back when I was interested, you know, in the hobby, I was reading, because, you know, you want to know what's going on, right? And you want to, I mean, there's no sense of looking for something that's not there. I read a report by the United States Treasury Department that at that time, this must have been 25 years ago, they estimated, I'm not going to give you a number because I don't remember, but they estimated the percentage of coins that had been minted that they suspected were in the ground. And it was staggering. It was a high amount, like more than you would guess, because you would think people, you know, like they wouldn't drop that much. If I was to say, okay, so out of all the money that's ever been minted, that we're talking about coinage, you know, how much of that do you think is in the ground? You might say, oh, a couple percent, because people drop it, they pick it up. They see something on the street, they pick it up. It was gigantic. It's like 40% or something, or whatever. It was a gigantic number. I'm like, really? So it's enough that if you can find places. And so I used to work with a guy, he's my boss, in the 80s, and he used to go down to Walden Pond, and there was a place where there used to be a boardwalk, and he explained to me that, you know, men in those days, they'd pull their pocket watch out, you know, and a 50-cent piece would fall down, and, you know. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting and stuff. And he went down to Walden Pond, where he knew the boardwalk used to be. It was long gone. And a couple of those ponds in the area, you know, a couple of other ponds in the area where he knew that there were like tourist sites. And he came back with a bag of stuff. He came in one day, so let me show you something. He had like a 4-pound bag of nothing but rings. Just rings that he'd found over the last 5 years. Yeah, they're there. You just got to know where to look. But here's the thing. There is a way to find out. There is a way, because this guy, he's dead now. It's unfortunate. His name was Rocky. That was his nickname. I'll tell you what I learned from Rocky, because he found these places that in the river, and I remember it was 1982, and he showed me a ring that said from so and so to so and so, and it was like apostrophe 92. And we're 1982, so it was 1892, right? So a lot of this stuff was almost 100 years old that he was finding, right? And he had a bag of rings, and they were like some really, really nice rings. So I started talking to him about colonial New England. Now, if you guys like this kind of stuff, there's a book that I recommend, and I read it probably 20 years ago, and I recently bought it on Kindle and read it. It's called Tall Trees, Tough Men. It is about the logging business and how roads were built, railroads were built, how logging sleds were built, and the whole thing. It explains the whole industry. It's absolutely fascinating. What really is mind-boggling is how tough people really were back then. And these guys, you know, they lived outdoors. There was no flu, no colds, no nothing. It was hard, back-breaking work. They slept together. Most of the time they were inflicted with lice, you know, but yeah, anyway. But the point being that these men were super tough. But Rocky was talking about how those mountains, the White Mountains in New Hampshire in particular, were all colonized. And those are all hilly areas. Now this is interesting, Rob. I think you'll find this interesting. He explained to me something. He said the secret to the whole thing is apple trees. Okay, go on. He says, well, the first thing that these colonists would do is they would plant apple trees. Because, you know, apple trees are amazing. One apple tree can feed a lot of people. And so the colonists would come in and they would build a house and they would build a cellar and they would plant a couple apple trees. They have a small orchard, okay, in family orchard. But there's always a pitch to the land because it's the mountainous area. So the tree grows and apples fall off and they roll down the hill and they stop and they germinate. And so what he explained to me is you start out with an area with a couple apple trees and it goes like this over time down the hill. They spread out. So he said that's the first key to finding these colonial settlements. I said, okay, well, so how do you go about, so what do? You romp the woods until you find apple trees? He said, no. You get a U.S. Geological Survey map and you get a highlighter and you start highlighting these roads on the map in the mountains so you can see what they do. And what you'll see is you'll see a road that'll go up and it'll hook around and come back down. I'm like, yeah. He says, that's like an ox cart path. I said, really? He said, yeah. And that means that all around the periphery of those hooks where the road is, there will be houses. And all that little section did was serve that community, and then the hook back down went onto the main road. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And so he told me that what he would do is he would study those maps. He would find 2 or 3 of those places that looked kind of like, there'd be a main road, then there'd be a spur coming off it like this or something like that, right? You guys get the idea. And he would park his car down the main road, and he would take all his gear with him. And then what he would do is he would walk around and he would say, that's a stump from an apple tree. Okay. And so from that apple tree, he would look at the topography and go, okay, what's directly from this point where the stump is, what's uphill that way? And he would walk, there's another stump. And he would find these apple tree stumps, and they would always lead to a grown over cellar bottom. And he said, you got to take a pole with you. I said, why? Because you don't want to fall in the cellar bottom because you can't get out. The pole can help you because you can probe, and if you fall in, it'll, pretty interesting. And he found a couple of cellar bottoms where the house had burned down. Sometimes there's a chimney there, and I've even seen that in the woods. There'd be a chimney in the fireplace and nothing else. Or the house would have just, 200 years old, it's wood, it went away. But the cellar bottom is there. And what you do is, you may have to, you got to keep quiet about it. You may have to go back 2 or 3 weekends at a time, but eventually you're trying to clean it out a little bit to where you can find the peripheral, the walls. And then you start looking for the caches and the walls. There'll be some kind of a loose rock or something, And he go, aha, and behind there you go, there's a bag full of stuff. He found a couple of them and he showed me. Just coins, you know, stuff from 1800s. It's like, wow, that's cool. You might find a Folgers coffee can, you know, it's all rusty, just ready to fall apart, full of coins. But those are really interesting things. Now, that kind of colonial development didn't happen here in Taiwan, so none of those things that I just said would even apply. And it doesn't apply to probably any other place except New England. But that was just something that he was telling me about. And I never did that, never explored it. I was busy with the rock and roll business when I was a kid. I was focused on music, focused on making records, working in the recording studio, you know, that kind of stuff. And, you know, then later the national radio talk show and all those things. I just never did it. But I would love to go back and I would love to do that now. The other thing too that Rocky told me was that, excuse me, he said every once in a while the railroad companies auction off maintenance trucks. And those are the pickup trucks that you go over the, you know, like the railroad tracks go by and they've got the, you know, the little hill. You go up to the hill and you turn on to the railroad tracks and then you press the magic button and the rail wheels come down and it lifts the car up and now you can drive on the railroad tracks. And those maintenance trucks, every once in a while, the railroad companies sell them off because they're regular trucks. You just, you know, they just got the extra wheels underneath. And he said, if you can get a hold of one of those things, then you can go nuts back there because the trains at that time had stopped running. Most of those rails were abandoned, and this is before they ripped a lot of them up. So many railroad beds now in the United States are like bike trails, jogging trails, multi-purpose, you know. It's really good. But there was a time period between when those railroads went out of business and they were taken over by the municipalities or the state and converted into other uses. And those rails, you could ride them all day long. There's no possibility of a train coming, and you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're going by settlements. He told me this, Rocky told me that he found, I don't know how he did this. I'm gonna have to think. He didn't have one of those vehicles. Now that I think about it, that guy was he was a tough old bird, Rocky. Now that I think about it, he hiked along the railroad track. Now remember, he found an abandoned station from the late 1800s, and most of it was gone, but he found where the railroad platform was. And that he was another one of the stories where, you know, you get the pocket watch out and a silver dollar. I'd forgotten about that till just now. You guys remind me. This is so cool. I like having these discussions. He came back, and in one of his bags, he plopped down the desk. He said, hey, Klein, come here. So this. I found this on the boardwalk at a station. And it was a silver dollar, something, 1890 or something. Just amazing. That was cool. Now, they do have a lot of those in Taiwan, but they're tourist attractions now. There's an old Japanese era station up in the mountains that I went to with my wife. I think my brother must have been with us. If so, that would have been 2011. And I couldn't even walk around. There were so many people. There were like 600 people at this little tiny station. It's a tourist thing. That's the problem, though, because once something gets popular in Taiwan, it's like immediately overrun. But I mean, all the old copper mines and things, you know, and the POW camps, because the Japanese were pretty brutal. They had a lot of Americans died in Taiwan, and there's some graveyards with American citizens, you know, American soldiers that are interred there. The POW camps are pretty hard, you know. They're labor camps, you know, and they were mining. But all those are well known. Casper's actually been there, and he did some videos on YouTube, and I think he did some live streams from there. But those are all well known. I have been personally myself on a couple of abandoned railroads in central Taiwan, in southern Miaoli, with huge, monstrous tunnels. These are for old steam locomotives, and withstand any earthquake. I've been in a couple of those. There's one called if you guys want to look this up, there's one called the Mother and Daughter Tunnel, just the nicknames of them. The tracks are still there. The roadway is still there. But what they do sometimes, and I wish they wouldn't do this, sometimes they'll tear up the originals and they'll put down new stuff that kind of represents where the old one was. And at the Hukou Old Streets, there's a section where the railroad used to go, and there's a place it's called like Da Hukou, which means like Greater Hukou. That was the Greater Hukou train station. And the station is long gone. There's a Catholic church behind it now, which is actually a museum. It's a functioning church with a priest, but it's actually a museum. But it's basically fake. It's just like, benches and a roof. And the rails out front are fake too. I mean, they're real rails, but that's not the original ones. They just embedded them in the street. So sometimes they do that, and I'm not too pleased with that. When I did the Hago tour, and I went to the bridge, the broken bridge in Miaoli, all that stuff is real. They didn't reproduce that. But it takes a lot of the problem about Taiwan is it's a very rugged place. Some of the places are dangerous, and there are dangerous snakes, and there's a lot of it's four-wheel drive territory, and any other research that you do is going to be in Chinese. Nobody's writing about this in English. Although, if you did your research in Chinese and you decided to write a book about it in English, it would probably be pretty popular when it's all said and done. But if you happen to live in New England or some other part of the United States that has a fairly long colonial history, and there are areas maybe that might be hilly, and you can find a road, and there's a spur that goes off the road, that shows that, like a little loop, and there may not be anything there now. The road may actually not be that well used, or maybe been abandoned. You might want to park your car and walk it and see what's up there. And if you find an apple tree, find the remains of an apple tree, mark it, and then look around and use whatever tools that you need to do. Find where the upgrade is, because an apple or apples rolled downhill from somewhere to form that tree, because apple trees don't just spring up. Apple trees are cultivated, crab apples are wild, but apple trees are cultivated. And so it's a sign of human presence. Just like certain forms of grapes, grapes there's a vine dresser that takes care of them, and they don't make it in the wild unless they're taken care of. So yeah, if you can find apple trees and do some backwards engineering, maybe you can find an old settlement. And so this guy was hardcore. Every weekend, he had an old International Harvester Scout, four-wheel drive, and he was up there in the mountains doing this stuff. He may even have driven that darn Scout. He may have even just driven that thing on the railroad tracks, knowing him, and just, But he found the station. I had completely forgotten about that. Holy cow. A lot of stuff was gone. And the other part about it is that a lot of that stuff becomes valuable again, and then it's off limits. That's what's been happening in Taiwan. That's actually good. See, I showed you guys pictures of Beipu, where we were. Beipu has the old streets. In Chinese, we call that Lao Jie, old streets. And when it says the Beipu Lao Jie, I was like looking at it and I told my wife, I said, oh, they realized it when it was too late. Because what happened was they had paved over, it's blacktop, it's asphalt on the main road, but off the road, the sidewalks were cobblestones, and that's what the original road was. I had shown you guys before on YouTube, I've shown you on Periscope, the Hukou old streets near my house. I need to go back there. I need to go back there and show that to you guys. In fact, I want to do that on Heygo. The Hukou old streets has the original cobblestones. What happened was at some point in the Taiwan government woke up and said, wait a minute, hold on, we have to start preserving this stuff. My first time I ever set foot in Taiwan was the year 2000. And I went to a town called Dashi. It's funny, I ended up living in there years later. Dashi has an old street. And I'm looking at this architecture. And it looks kind of funny. And I said, what do you call this architecture? And the person I was with said, Baroku. You mean this is Baroque? And then it hit me, I go, this is Baroque. What in the world? This is Taiwan, what's going on? And then I realized, this is Qing Dynasty stuff. That's where this came from. That was the European influence on the Qing Dynasty. And then those people came to Taiwan and built stuff. Fortunately, the government in Taoyuan has saved that. So in Dashi, the old streets, that stuff is still preserved. Now in Dashi, you can't touch the facade, the outside, because what happened was they kind of made a mistake. What they did was they installed lights and stuff, you know, spotlights and floodlights for the street on the facades of these, like, you know, Baroque Qing Dynasty buildings. And then they went whoopsie, but they left them and they froze it. So the only thing you can do is restorative repair. But like 1 centimeter past that, you can do anything you want on the inside. So they've gutted these things out. They're modern art galleries. In the case of the Hukou Old Streets, there's actually a guy's got a kiln in there, and it's a gas-fired kiln, and it's a porcelain shop. He's doing handmade, hand-decorated, you know, bowls, plates, saucers, cups, and stuff. It's really cool. Several friends of mine have come to Taiwan and visited and gone there, and stuff's high quality. They bought his stuff. But the outside you can't touch. The Hukou Old Streets is probably average as far as the preservation level. Some places like in Lugang, which is in central Taiwan, are a little bit more preserved. And others like Beipu just aren't very preserved at all. I mean the temples are. And they have some individual buildings. Like there was one guy that was a well-known merchant, is a rich guy. And he was heavily influenced by Europe and his dealings with European businessmen. So in Beipu, they have what they call the Western House. And it's, you know, it looks like a British rich guy's house from 1850, you know. So it's kind of boring. It's behind a high wall, but it's there. It shows the evidence, you know, of the outside influence on Taiwan and some of the history. And I'm glad that they have it saved. But it's, you know, it's a regular paved road on the outside, and there's a wall. So if you're driving down the street, unless you stopped and stood up and looked over the wall, you'd never know there was anything there. So that's kind of that's kind of the problem. There's another place that my wife and I were at a couple years ago, and they called it the Old Streets. And I'm looking up and down, and I saw one house that looked old. but everything had been paved over. And I said, okay, well, they figured it out too late. So I'm fortunate that where I live in Huko, there's a couple places that are old, and they have preserved them. So yeah, I gotta read that again. That disappeared. Yeah, and that's right. When they dig them up, and they're never going to go back. But I mean, that's how they were. The cobblestones, that's how they were. And when I was in Vientiane, in Laos, that would have been 2006. There's a temple, and it turned in. They were doing some work on the street. Kind of, like a pipe or something, and they dug down and they found another wall that was outside the main temple wall, and they realized that was the original temple wall. And suddenly, archaeological site is amazing. Everything went up, red tape went up, and these guys were out there, and they're out there with brushes and stuff. So yeah. Norman and Frank. Norm Murray, he told me one of the worst things that can happen on a construction site is if they find Native American artifacts. He was just being honest, because he said that that's it. Construction's over. Doesn't matter if a mall, a school, an airport, a train station, they find Native American artifacts, construction's over. It's done. So he said, now he didn't do this. He's not the kind of guy that would do that. But he said that some guys were like, they found a skull. It's like, bury it. What? Just hide it. Just put it in the ground. Bury it. So can't tell anybody about it. Find anything like it. Find any bones? Nope. Just find any artifacts, any jewelry. They're digging a foundation to build a building. They find anything. Nope. Hide it. Don't take it home, bury it. Just put it somewhere else. So they told him that. So that's the world we live in. But Lynn's been around for a long time. There must be a ton of stuff underground. So it is. That's great for history. The thing is, though, is it completely changes the dynamics, and it changes the power dynamic. And so it goes from being a private enterprise to a government enterprise. But I don't know. If I bought a piece of land, I was going to put a mall on it, and I found some Native American artifacts, and the government took it away from me, I'd be pretty mad. But if the government gave me the opportunity to do the right thing, and then make the profit off of that, that'd be fine with me. Because the goal is to make money in business, and if you make money off of this or that, it doesn't really matter as long as it's not immoral. And so, yeah, I mean, I would think that, because those kind of attractions, because they have them here in Taiwan, because they do have, and I've shown this on live streams, not too far from where I live is a very old, it's the remains of a very old Hakka community, mud walls, and like it's all broken down. The roof material's gone, but for example, there'll be pieces of wall, okay, and you go around the corner, you can see, oh, well, there's where the kitchen was, because you can see the stove, and where they put the wood in and the pots on the top of it and stuff. And those places draw a lot of people, and it's really, really interesting. And that's what I would do. I mean, if I had a place like that, that'd be cool. But there's so much of that around. But for many years, it's all about war and conquest and sovereignty and all this stuff. And while governments, are worried about asserting their sovereignty, they're not worried about destroying artifacts in the process, You could do entire book just on Taiwan military infrastructure. If you go down to the beach, and I've shown this on my blog, and I don't know if I've ever shown this on live stream. I need to go down to the beach and take some pictures, but there's pillboxes. There's like gun positions. So there's like these round pillboxes with slots in them, you know, for machine guns and stuff. And even today, there are radar installations on the coast. They're always watching. They're watching at the Taiwan Strait, see if anything's coming over, you know. And some of the little pillboxes are kind of tilting now in the sand. Most of them are open. You can climb up inside, and I've taken pictures of them. I have to go through and see if I can take some of the old pictures. And yeah, I think if I remember, I can put that together and show that. But yeah, C Squared made a pretty interesting point though about the metal detecting. I got to think about that. The thing is though, is you just can't halfway it, you know. If you're gonna, you gotta get like that Radio Shack. You know, I used headphones. So that Radio Shack metal detector was okay, but it was hard to work the discrimination. And the problem is when you're first learning how to use these things, they discriminate metals and so forth. You got to dig up everything. You can't take a chance. You get a blip, you got to dig up everything until you associate the sound with, you know. And so Rocky had a whites, and this, of course, this is going back in the 80s. They made so much progress since then. But he came in one day, on a Monday, he said, "Hey, Klein, I went detecting. And I discovered something pretty interesting." And I said, "What is it?" And he said that, you know, he goes over you got to have the coil parallel the ground. You can't. So you see some guys going like this, and, you know, and you got to go slow enough. And there's a technique to it, right? You have to have overlapping passes. And the whites detector was one of the first ones in those days that did discrimination. And they have different tones, and you get to know the tones, right? But he said that occasionally he would go or something and he would hear white noise. He would hear like, shh, shh, like that. It wasn't a tone. So he dismissed it. So he told me on this one weekend trip, he was, he'd found something, got a target, dug it up. And what you always do, that knows anything at all, is when you dig something, you find it, you pinpoint it, you dig it out, you check the hole again because there might be something else. You might have been hearing multiple targets, one on top of another. It would be a shame to take the first one off and say, okay, the hole's clean without checking it. Then you always check again. And he checked the hole again and he heard that shh noise. So this time he's already invested in it. He stopped, you know, he's got his pinpointer, he's got his tools. He said, so he physically dug and removed some soil, and so now the coil can go down deeper, and he started to get a tone. And he dug down deeper and dug down deeper, and what the whites detector had done was the only thing that it could do. It could not give a solid indication and indicate whether it was, you know, a ferrous material or non-ferrous material with the discriminator. It just went shh, meaning there's some kind of metal down there, but it's too far away. And he didn't realize this, and none of the literature said anything about that. So he dug down and he found something else, but he said it was 12 inches down. And for those of you who don't know, it's like, that's what, 21 centimeters, I think? I forget. He dug down and found something much deeper than he ever would have found normally, because the machine made this white noise thing. And so he says, now I realized, I heard that a bunch of times, and it was telling me that there's stuff down there below the level that it was able to discriminate. I was like, wow. So I guess you got to go back. So yeah, you got to go back because some of the areas that he was detecting were, pretty fruitful, and you didn't want to miss anything. But anyway, as far as I know, he never sold anything. I think it was just a hobby. He just wanted to do it, and he eventually got cancer and died before his parents, which has got to be terrible. The guy wasn't that old. He was only in his, I think he was in his early 50s. And so I guess his parents, had these bags of stuff, but pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. And I'd forgotten about that railroad station. So we have old railroad stations in Taiwan, but Taiwan, I mean, the whole island of Taiwan is about as big as Massachusetts and Connecticut put together. And the central area is virtually uninhabitable due to the mountains. I mean, our highest mountain here is 3 times as high as Mount Washington. So I hear you, bro. Take care. Frank has an Indian motorcycle with these beautiful brown leather saddlebags on the back. And Frank, I don't think I've ever shared one of your photos of your Indian, but if you don't mind, or you can send me one that you want me to share. I can just rip one from Facebook, but yeah. So those nice leisurely rides, yeah, it's nice. It's really nice. Of course, it's hard to do that in Taiwan because of the scooters and stuff. And but in the mountains is different. You would enjoy, Frank. You would enjoy the mountains here. And like I said, they're 3 times higher than Mount Washington, but we're also south of Key West, Florida, so the weather's not as bad. But some of those mountain trails, and a lot of people bike those, and there's a lot of support for cyclists. Virtually any police station here in Taiwan on a bike trail is a place that you can get air for your tires. You can often buy, things like tires and stuff, but there's always a bathroom, there's a water stop to fill your water bottles, and you can always find a friendly police officer to shoot the breeze with and just hang out. So it's really something about that. And they've always said that Taiwan is a cyclist's heaven, and that's one of the reasons why. So now I have a recumbent trike. It's a 3-wheeled machine. And 1 wheel in the back, 2 in the front, and I got handles and they steer. It's amazing with brakes on them, and the shifters on the top. And the pedals are out front, and you pedal like this, and you're basically sitting back like on a lounge chair. I love that thing, but I've had it for, I've had it for 15 years, and I need to put it in the shop because it's time for maintenance. Yeah, we do. Because I'm going to say this. Taiwanese are stereotypers. They're into stereotypical stuff. And this is funny. I'm going to say this. I'm going to tell you this. I'll go to Frank's Steakhouse, like on a Sunday, and there'll be a group of about 15 guys with Harleys. And they're brand new. I mean, pristine. There isn't a thumbprint on the gas tank. Nothing. And, they've got blue jeans, a vest, wallet with a chain on a belt. It's all brand new. A bandana, and it's a costume. That's all it is, costume. It's amazing. And it's funny because I walked in the door And one guy looked at me and goes, hey, look, it's Kentucky Fried Chicken Man. And I'm like, yeah, at least I'm not wearing a costume. Yeah, it's all just, I mean, because people have Harleys because Americans think they're cool. Now, anybody who knows anything about motorcycles know that technologically Harleys are pieces of junk. I'm from New Hampshire, okay, Laconia, okay, do the math. I never rode a motorcycle, but I've seen probably 50,000 different motorcycles. And every single time there's a motorcycle broken down on the side of the road and a highway in New Hampshire, it's some kind of Harley Davidson. Always. The guys that I knew that were serious about touring had gold wings. And you guys know Colby, my old friend. Colby had a gold wing, and his friend had a Harley, and it's always about, oh, you're riding rice. Colby said, okay, let's trade bikes for the afternoon. Okay, the guy didn't want to trade back. He never had a bike that rode as good as the rice, but there are a tremendous amount of the bigger bikes, of the Kawasaki crotch rockets here, and even Ducati. And these guys are like, and I mean, they drive insane, man. They drive in ways that I would never see anybody drive in the States, because I just think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the laws of physics. But the guys who drive Harleys here in Taiwan are rich guys that work in an office, that drive them on the weekend, and they put their biker costumes on for the weekend. So it's really funny. It's just a stereotype. It's just it's a joke. It's a facade. It's not a lifestyle. And you know, I'll walk by and I'll look at the odometer and like, oh yeah, okay, there's nothing on it. So, but you can get other stuff here. You know, if you want to get you want to get a Honda or a Yamaha or something else, you can get them here. But Ducatis are expensive, and Harleys are expensive. But I think I've only ever seen one. I think I've only ever seen one Harley store, and the prices are triple what you pay in the States. First of all, there's a big import duty on those, and then there's other taxes and stuff. And they also tax motorcycles according to the engine size. You know, so 250 and under is one license. There's 50 cc, and then from 50 to 250 is another license bracket, and then after that you got, you know, higher than that, it's another one. 50 cc motor scooters, anybody with a car driver's license can drive, no problem. And anything from 50 to 250, you have to get a motorcycle license. It's real easy to get, but nobody checks. I could just buy one, nobody would bother me. But I don't ride a motorcycle in Taiwan because it's too dangerous. Too many people are killed, and if you really want to know, just look at YouTube. You know, car accidents in Taiwan, motorcycle accidents in Taiwan. Yes, people flying through the air and landing, you know, in the middle of the road and stuff. Just crazy. Motorcycle drivers are often doored because, well, I'll just give you an example. One day I just happened to be looking at two motorcycle cops. They're riding scooters, like 175cc scooters. And a woman had parked her car, and she just whipped the door open, and the cop went like this, and he almost hit. I mean, she didn't look out. It's clear she didn't look out the rearview mirror. And he didn't give her a ticket. I mean, I would have dressed her up and down, but that happens all the time. every year, at least in Taipei, 4 or 5 scooters riders are killed because people pull into a parking space and they whip the door open. And this is a country where there are millions of scooters. But people don't think about that. It's bizarre. I never saw anything like that. There's no way. I mean, just riding my trike, I have an air horn on the trike. And a truck was backing up, man, and I couldn't get him to stop. And he finally got so close that I could reach out and I banged on the back of the truck, going bang, 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 and he finally stopped. I'm like, duh. Tan Lu. Look at the road. Yeah, I know. I hear you. They had those, there's a kind, it's a brand, I don't know what it is. They have a brand of motorized trike. There's 2 wheels in the front. They're not wide, they're narrow, 2 wheels in the front. And that gives it extra stability. And they've got some kind of a canopy that comes over the top that's made out of fabric. I don't know what brand that is. They had those in Taiwan. They seem a little more stable when they're cornering with the 2 wheels, but I don't know. I think it's a gimmick. But so yeah, every once in a while I'll go to Frank's barbecue along the coast and I'll see the Harley Davidson players, because that's what they are. They're like a troupe, you know. There isn't a tattoo on anybody, and yeah, just crazy. These guys are all like they work in a bank. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, it's a costume. It really is. I wish I had pictures. I wish I had pictures. You would know what I mean. But that's kind of how it is. It's sort of like when young musicians act like they think rock stars act. And you can tell that's what they're doing. They're putting on an act, so. I can't believe that we've been on almost 2 hours. 1 hour and 53 minutes. We've been talking about some cool stuff. I really enjoyed talking about that treasure hunting, you know. And there's a place in North Carolina. I went to visit my dad in 1999. And I'm going to say, I think the name of the place is Hedonite. I think that's what it is. Anyway, I heard that you could do mining out there, and different types of mining. And they allowed people to basically buy a stake if you wanted to. And there are many places where, I mean, people had dug down pits. I mean, like they dug them down like 3 meters, 4 meters. These guys got ladders going down there, right? But they also had other arrangements, and I just wanted to try it out. And I didn't want to buy a stake or anything, but they said, well, you can buy like a bucket. Okay, so basically what it is, this place is so mineral rich, it has so many gemstones that they just sell buckets of dirt. And what you do is you take them over to the sluice. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, sluicing is where you have to have a water supply, and there are riffles in the trough that catch. Of course, it depends what you're trying to catch. It's different technology, different sizes for gold or for gems or whatever. But anyway, it's basically like a kind of a chute, a water system, where you would pour your dirt in and it washes away the dirt, and the heavier stuff, supposedly, which would be gold or minerals or gems or whatever, would fall and get cut and get caught, right? And so you pay so much money and you get a bucket and you pour it in there and you pour it slow and you're going through and you're looking through and I did it. And I found some jasper in there and a couple of pieces of beautiful red Amazonite. It was really, really nice. And of course, I don't have those anymore. I left them with my dad. But you know, for like, I don't know, a couple of bucks, you get a bucket of dirt, and you can have you could find not actually a very valuable gemstone, but a type of gemstone that you could take to a jeweler and polish it and make a really nice personalized ring or pendant or something, right? Which is cool. And so I was there, and of course everybody's got the big story, but the guy says, you know, last week a guy bought a bucket and there was a huge emerald in it. I'm like, really? So you don't really know whether it's true or not, but yeah, it was like a $20,000, emerald. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, anyway, but I didn't have that kind of success. But Hedonite, I think is the name of the place. I forget. But if I ever get back there, because I want to go back there, my sister lives in North Carolina, and so does Coco, and I want to visit Coco too. But I would like to take Phoenix and my wife to that place, for a couple hours, and just buy some buckets of dirt and throw them in the sluice, and find some gemstones. These things are cool, and I think it's good for kids. It's a good education for kids, and because we get everything from the earth, all of it, everything. Our food, clothing, housing, transportation, everything. This comes from the earth. It's a closed system. That's what's so amazing. The only thing that comes from outer space is an occasional meteorite. But our air, no, it's recycled. Our water is recycled, I mean, you go to the bathroom in the toilet over there and you put your glass in the sink, it's the same thing, folks. It's just recycled, Pretty amazing. And I think it's good for kids to learn that and to focus on that and actually realize that. And it's amazing it's always amazing to me how every time there's a need for a new type of material, somehow it's discovered or it's created by putting other materials together. Like there'll be some kind of thermal insulation that we need for electric cars or something, and all of a sudden, they discovered it, or they created it out of stuff that was already there. Funny how that works, isn't it? Wow, it's amazing. Is that evidence of intelligent design? Because I think it is. A planet that gives you everything that you can ever think of, including stuff you haven't thought of yet. But that's, Anyway, thanks so much for joining. I've been yakking far too long. This has been great. I really appreciate it. Let me think about this. I'll see if I can find some relevant pictures based on what I talked about. But forgive me if I don't do it this week, because I'm down here this week. I'm going to be live streaming some cool places down at the coast here, and I'll take the Chingway down. I got to think about whether tomorrow night I'm going to go to that night market or not, because it's that one I'm talking about is only open. Hey, Mike. Tomorrow, it's tonight and tomorrow. It won't be open until I'm gone. So I got to think about whether I'm going to do that, and whether I'm going to go to the Cowboy Bar or some other things. I got to have to talk to my wife and decide all that stuff. But anyway, over the next few days, you're going to see me live streaming. And then on Wednesday, go to realtime1.tv and check out the Hago tour that I'm doing on Wednesday. And yeah. So Mike, sorry you just joined us. I've been on for exactly 1 hour and 59 minutes. And so I'm getting ready to sign out. But thanks so much for joining. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for sticking around. Always a pleasure. And if I come back to the States, man, I'm looking forward to sitting down with you and your wife and talking in person. It'd be great. I could be quiet for a while and let you talk. That'd be great. Guys, take care. We'll see you next time. And been a while. Here's the big finger. Bye-bye. You guys take care. Good night. Thank you so much.